it's going to be an interesting game this weekend. I mean, Leicester on absolutely shocking form at the moment. I think they've lost every single game apart from their first game, which they drew with Brentford after being 2-0 up. And yeah, if you look at those past 5 games, just L's everywhere for Leicester. Spurs unbeaten so far in the league. But, you know, with the Leicester side, I know they've been in terrible form, but they do have good players and they can turn it on occasions, can't they? And, you know, they're always good for a goal. They seem to be scoring a lot. It's just that at the other end, I mean, they just conceding over 2 goals a game, 2 goals minimum a game.
Yeah, and it's a bit different to when they were at their best under Brendan Rodgers, which is when maybe a couple of years ago, when they used to be quite a kind of like a counter-attacking team. They used to kind of wait for players and use Vardy to hit them on the counter-attack and attack the space. I think nowadays they're a bit more offensive, but I think the structure seems very, very broken in the moment when it comes to Leicester. They seem still threatening going forward, but they're all at sea at the back, and I think that's really hurting them at the moment. I think the players, Rodgers, are not quite believing in the project right now, and I think there's a kind of misalignment at Leicester.
I don't even think the manager believes in the project at the moment.
I'm saying, yeah, Rodgers and the players.
Yeah.
It's a problem. It's a big problem for them. I think every time I hear him speak, he seems to be lacking motivation. Not thinking positively about the situation. It kind of seems like they just want to get this season over and done with already, and it's only 7 games in. It's unbelievable. So we have to take advantage of that situation. Obviously, we have to make sure that we're not going into this game so confident that we take it for granted that we're going to win. They still got dangerous players, but as long as we're doing our jobs defensively, I think there will be chances for us going the other way. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, and if you look at the past 5 games between Spurs and Leicester, obviously a lot of goals in these games historically, but winning 4 out of the last 5, 1 loss coming in 2020, which was a 2-0 loss at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But apart from that, I mean, goals absolutely flying in this game. And I got a feeling it could be something similar this weekend. But when you're looking at this Leicester project, what has gone wrong? Because when you're looking at maybe a year and a half ago, when we were taking callers about Daniel Levy and stuff like that, a lot of people were calling up being like, Leicester are the team that we need to, the Leicester owners are one of the best owners in the league. But this summer, they haven't invested at all. They've kept players that are running down their contract and stuff like that, which is going to not stand them in good stead at some point because they're not going to get as much money in as maybe they could have got done. But what has gone wrong at Leicester?
I think they've found it really tough to compete with the top 6 when it comes financially, when it comes on a footballing sense. Even them, Leicester have had very good recruitment. They've got very decent players like Tielemans and Didi for like good prices and things like that. But they haven't been able to keep up the standards they set for themselves. Obviously, missing out on the Champions League twice after having big points advantages going late in the season, that probably really hurt them. And last season, they've missed out on European football completely, and that really hurt the financial side of the club. And the Leicester owner said that Leicester at the moment have to kind of just spend within their means. They have to kind of sell to buy because they've been spending big money recently and big wages, and now they're out of Europe, so they don't have that European money coming through. So to comply with FFP, that's the situation of the club. So I think maybe when people look at us and people say, yeah, look, there's been no trophies, but you know, we have been for now, I don't know how long you could say, probably at least 10 years, maybe a bit longer, been either consistently competing with or consistently in and around the top 6. And, you know, people take that for granted. But you see Leicester, they've done it for 2 years and they've struggled to keep it up. You know, West Ham do it for a year and struggled to keep up. And it's not as easy. It's not such an easy thing to do what we've done, develop that. So I think from that point of view, maybe it needs a bit more credit. But Leicester fans would argue, maybe the other fans would argue, Leicester have won an FA Cup and they've won a league title in that time. And that can make all the difference. But where their club is heading at the moment, I mean, our club and their club are going in 2 different directions, in my opinion. And I think it's just difficult when you drop out of European football and maybe you're not that financially stable, you're relying on that money. This is where they're at. And thankfully, we're in a bit better position financially than that.
Yeah, and when you're looking at Brendan Rodgers, he cuts a very distraught figure at the moment, and he's saying stuff like, this isn't the club it used to be. He's bemoaning the lack of transfers, sold big players as well this summer. Kasper Schmeichel went out the door, and, you know, having to rely on Ward, who doesn't seem like a very good keeper at all.
Oh, he's been terrible.
Yeah, and Fofana as well, going out for 70 million to Chelsea, and they didn't replace him. They just didn't replace them. They were just like, all right, fine, we're just going to let him go for 70 million. And then after that, you're thinking, all right, maybe they are going to spend a bit this summer, but they only brought in, what was it, one player after that? And who was that player?
There was from Rennes. I think he was a defender. I think they brought in a defender from Rennes,
Right.
I think it was, but not like a big name or anything like that.
Yeah.
They haven't spent at all. I don't think how Leicester fans would like, and even Rodgers seems to be unhappy with the transfer market. When it comes to Fofana, obviously he spent the whole summer trying to get out of Leicester. They ended up settling for 70 million. But do you think it was a bit disrespectful what he did? Like, because they gave him, like, while he was injured for a year, they gave him a 5-year deal. They like really backed him and said, look, I know we know you're injured, but we believe in you. We're going to give you a big contract. And then he goes and forces his way out in the first chance he gets.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because he's got his own career to worry about, first and foremost. You can't just be, you know, as much as everyone wants to think there's loyalty in football, the players are thinking first and foremost about their careers. That's just the honest truth of the matter. And when you're looking at where Leicester are and where they're going, he's probably in and around, obviously he was in and around the dressing room. I don't think there's probably too much of a good vibe going on there. Brendan's not happy, the players aren't happy, so he's probably thinking, what am I sticking around for when a Champions League club are coming in for me and really want me to be part of their project? So I mean, you could say it's probably disrespectful on one hand, but on the other hand, he's thinking of his career, and you never know if he's going to get. I mean, he's probably thinking, oh, am I going to get this opportunity again? I mean, he probably would have done, but you never know if it will come around again.
No, I get that. I completely understand that. I'm just saying, when the club have shown the support that they didn't need to at that time, when you have got a big injury like that, you know, to give you that big, long contract at a time where you're at your lowest, to then treat the club like that at the first opportunity when you can leave, is just a bit of a must leave a sour taste in the mouth for Leicester.
It probably does, but you know, everyone can completely understand where he's coming from. I mean, if it was a club where maybe the situation was different and they were flirting with where they were flirting with maybe a year or two ago, then I think it would be a bit more disrespectful. But everything's a mess around there at the moment. Brendan probably seems like he wants to leave. Even if the manager is cutting a figure like Brendan is, then no player's going to want to stay at the end of the day.
That's absolutely right. And it's just it's an interesting one, because Leicester were, at least you can say, the last 2 years, maybe not last year directly, but before that, they were our direct rivals, Leicester. You have to say that. They finished above us, I think, for 2 years in a row, didn't they? Or 1 year?
Well, when they won the league?
No, recently I'm talking about under Rodgers. They finished above us. They went under Mourinho.
Under Mourinho, yeah.
I think twice.
I thought it was once. It could have been twice, but
I think twice they finished above us.
Wow.
No, maybe it is once, but they definitely finished above us at least once, and threatened. They finished fifth back to back, didn't they? So like. And then obviously people are looking at them and thinking, what a well-run club, you know, they recruit well, they go in a good direction, they won the FA Cup. But now look at them. It's a very, very bad situation right now, Leicester. But is it a case like, is it as easily solvable as like with Tottenham, where we were in a bit of a mess? Let's not be like a year ago under Nuno and the whole Mourinho tenure. You could probably say a similar thing to us as we are about Leicester, but the right appointment has sorted us out, kind of. Not totally, but on the way there. Is it as easy a fix for Leicester, or is it a lot more deeper than that, do you think?
I think it's a difficult question first and foremost, but I do think they've got good players there. They've got the likes of Maddison, Tielemans, Barnes, Indeed, James Justin, who I think is a really good player, Dewsbury Hall as well. I really rate him coming through the ranks there. I think they've got the nucleus of a good squad there. I think their defence is pretty much shot to pieces. I think they definitely need reinforcements massively in the defence. But I think if a manager comes in with a few fresh ideas, and I think they can definitely make something out of this season. But I think if Brendan stays there and it keeps rotting and rotting, they've got a real chance of going down this season. And if they do go down this season, I mean, all these players are going to leave in the summer. That's just the
For
facts of
sure.
the matter.
But when you say make something out of the season, what does that mean for them? Because they're not in Europe, they're not challenging top six.
Top half finish, maybe mid-table, somewhere around there.
Top half, yeah. I mean, at the moment, the competition is so big at the moment. Top half is looking difficult, but I guess that'll be a success from this point after losing 5 of your first 6 games, and they just look all over the place at the moment. Leicester, whenever they're on the pitch, they don't seem to be trying very hard. The pressing isn't there. The kind of that mentality and aggression to stay in games and defend right and do the right things, and then you still got players like Tielemans who wanted to leave. He was clearly wanting out in the summer. It didn't happen for him. Maddison was heavily linked. These are their best players, and only one of them got the chance to leave. But there are players still there who definitely wanted out. Vardy's not getting any younger. You know, I think age is starting to catch up with him eventually,
Absolutely.
and I think it is now. So it's very difficult to see what Leicester can even do this season right now. But maybe a new manager, someone who. It's difficult because Rodgers the problem? I don't know, but it needs a bit more of a positive vibe.
I think
everything
has kind of come to a head, and they've let it fester now. Ever since, I don't even know when it started, but they've let it fester for so long. They didn't reinforce in the summer, and I think that if they brought in a manager with fresh ideas and the players that they have now really come together and show that they want to fight for that football club, you never know what can happen. I mean, you saw when Leicester won the league, they probably had a relegation team or a championship team that actually won the league. I know it was a freak thing that actually happened that year, but they proved that if you dig deep and come together and really work as a team, magical things can happen.
Is it like us at the back end of the Pochettino era? This
could be. Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, it's just the thing that it's just gone completely stale there, and they just need a guy to come in with a fresh approach. And it feels like, to me, Brendan Rodgers is just biding his time to get sacked.
It's he wants to get sacked, isn't it?
It's what it seems like.
Yeah, which is an awful situation for them. In terms of... if you look at their lineup that we think they're probably going to go with, if you look at the 4 players, Tielemans, Maddison, Barnes, Vardy, these are players who... at their best, were hurting the best defences in the league. They were very good.
All of them are top players. I mean, indeed, a lot. He was linked to the biggest teams in England at one stage. Maddison, I think he's an absolutely fine player. You saw the stats he brought in last season in a troubled Leicester side, and even this season he started well. I mean, last year he got 12 goals, 8 assists. Harvey Barnes got 6 goals, 10 assists. You know what I mean? So I mean, these players showed that they can do it at the top level in the Premier League. They've got players as well like Iniacho and Daka, who came with big reputations, who haven't really done it just as of yet. So I think that they've got really good attacking talent, and it shows as well this season because they are scoring consistently in every game. They do create chances, they do score goals, but it's the other end which really is worrying, where they can't seem to hold up to any team's attack at the moment. Like I said, they're conceding a minimum of 2 goals a game, which is absolutely really worrying for them. And if it carries on like this, they are in massive danger of the drop this season.
Yeah, 100%. No team is too big to go down. Doesn't matter how good the players you have. If they're not trying and they're not putting in their all, and this league is very unforgiving, and you can drop down, and it's not so easy when you drop down to get back up. As we've seen so many times with many big clubs who have gone down, thinking that they'll go straight back up. And it
sounds like a job for Big Sam to me.
And yeah, maybe, or Sean Dyche.
Dyche wouldn't be a bad appointment, but the thing is, to get Dyche in to where Leicester were 2 years ago, now you're talking about managers like Allardyce and Dyche to come and save them. It's actually mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because they were one of the best teams in the Premier League, at least like top 6, top 7, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
flirting with top 4.
Yeah, and whether Dyche can change that get that kind of level performance out. Someone in the comments, Nick Knack, says losing Schmeichel has unsettled the defence. I agree with that. I think even though maybe he was getting on a bit, like 36 or so, I still think he was a pretty good goalkeeper. And I think as well, having that leadership and that voice of someone who's been there for many years, must have been 7 or 8 years at the back line there, and replacing him with someone like Danny Ward, that must make a big difference in terms of the leadership of the back line, and maybe that's why we're seeing them all at sea at the moment. Yeah, and Ward has made a series of mistakes already.
Yeah, I mean, he's been terrible, but you could see what an influence Schmeichel had on that team. not only now since it's gone, but when he was there, you know, he was always commanding that back line. He was pretty much a Was he the captain?
It was Morgan, and then Mr.
Yeah, then they gave it to Schmeichel. So at the end of the day, they've lost 2 captains in the last 2 or 3 years, which is obviously going to have a massive impact. Cody Mack with the super chat here. Remember, for 19 months, Cody, big up. And he says, let's not pretend Leicester didn't have an interest in giving Fofana that deal. That was a big factor in the fee they netted for him. Big up, guys, coming to Spurs. And that's completely right as well.
Fair point.
And let's not get away that Leicester needed the money as well.
Yeah, well, they didn't spend it, did they?
They didn't spend it, but they needed it.
Yeah, it's true. 70 million's a pretty good price. But as well, it's also a bit of a risk because they were giving him a 5-year deal. They didn't know if he was going to come back the same player after that big injury. So that's also, you know, you got to say there was a bit of risk there. But I understand what he's saying. He's probably right at the end because a young defender of Fofana's ability, you got to make sure that you're getting the value, that as much value as you can, and that's probably the best way to do it by giving him a big contract. So definitely was value there. From a Tottenham side, selection-wise and things like that, there's a big clamour to get Kulusevski back in the team for this weekend. Would you say that he 100% has to be back in the lineup, or would you be not surprised if he keeps the same front three?
I wouldn't be surprised just because of what Conte's like, but I really want to see Kulusevski back in the side. Me personally, I want to see a front three of Kane, Kulu and Richarlison now. I think it's time to bring Son out of the team, at least for one game, you know what I mean? But it's worrying why he hasn't taken him out of the team, because Conte is known to be ruthless like this, where if a player isn't playing well, which clearly he isn't, you bring him out of the team, especially when we've got such big players as well that can come in and replace him. So I think the front three should be that three, but I got a feeling he will go again with Son, Kane and either Kulu or Richarlison.
Yeah, it's a lot of people calling for Son to get benched. People have actually, it's interesting, people were comparing Son's numbers this season to last season, and in terms of shots on goal, touches in the penalty area, XG accumulated per 90 and things like that, the numbers are actually very similar. So, but this season he hasn't clinical. He just hasn't been able to get the same outcomes from it. But the stats suggest that if he keeps playing to the standard he is, it will come back for him. So maybe that's why he's still in the team, because maybe just because he hasn't scored at all, but he hasn't been scoring or getting the attacking numbers so far after 8 games. But maybe the belief within the Spurs team, looking at the data, is if he does keep playing, the stats suggest he will start scoring again.
Look, I think there's definitely a massive case for that. But on the other side, Kulu's done nothing not to deserve to play. Richarlison's done nothing not to deserve to play. Kane's done nothing not to deserve to play. Sonny is not being clinical enough. He's clearly the worst performing out of those 4 players. So I don't know why, just at least for one game to try it, to see how it works. And I have no 2 ways about it that Son will still have a good season this season. But taking him out for one game doesn't mean, oh, Son's finished, we need to take him out. We've got a squad for a reason, you know? So take him out the team for one game, see if it works, and you can always revert back to it. And with Son on the bench, that still means he can come on with half an hour, 20 minutes to go and still make an impact and change the game. So I don't know what this whole hoo-ha is about taking Son out of the team for one game. It's absolutely mental in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon I've got a feeling he's going to keep him in for one more game.
We keep saying one more game every week,
I know,
though.
But I've got a feeling he will. I don't think he's going to take him out just yet, because I think Leicester, he knows he's definitely got a good chance of getting on the score sheet. But look, we have been saying it, but then again, look, he had a poor game last game. The game before that, he was pretty decent against Fulham, even though he didn't score. He still played pretty well. But then his performances have been really poor. But what do you make out of the theory? People have been suggesting that having Perisic on his side hurts him a bit, because Perisic maybe takes up a lot of the spaces that Son is taking up. And is it any coincidence that his best performance so far this season came when Sessegnon was playing? And is there anything, do you think, because you look at the average position of where Perisic is compared to maybe a Sessegnon or a Emerson, Perisic is literally level or even beyond Son a lot of the times in these average positions. Son goes a lot more central, and then maybe that is getting into too much of his spaces. Is there anything to that, or do you think that's just coincidental? Like,
I personally don't believe there's anything to that, to be honest. I think that if you've got two quality players, they'll find a way to play with each other. And like you say, Son is getting in good positions. Son is getting chances. He just keeps fluffing his lines and not being clinical enough. And you're talking about Sonny last season, right? Last season, he was scoring like the same amount of XG as what you're saying at this point as last season, but he's just not finishing his chances this season. So why would that be to do with Perisic?
I don't know, just people suggesting.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't believe it whatsoever. I just think it's a complete coincidence, and I think that once Sonny starts scoring, he'll start scoring when Perisic is there, he'll start scoring with Cessna. It doesn't matter who's there. Once he gets his confidence levels up, he'll start scoring and start making an impact again.
Sorry, this comment made me laugh. Ben is an eye test merchant.
Eye test merchant.
That just made me laugh. No, look, I think a lot of people like to judge football with their eyes, and a lot of people, some people like to look at the stats. Some people say, but what did Mourinho once say? Stats is for people who don't understand football.
Exactly.
Like
Mourinho's my guy.
So Ben's of the Mourinho school of football.
Yeah.
Eye test is all. When it comes to, I agree with you. I think there maybe is a bit of an adjustment. I wouldn't say that Son's struggles are down to Perisic. In the main, I would say there is potentially having such an offensive wing back. We haven't quite had that yet since until now, like a proper wing back who's a winger until Perisic. So there might be a bit of an adjustment to how Perisic plays, only because I feel like Perisic, when he gets in and around the penalty box, whereas I think Reguilon and Session were actually looking for little passes into the penalty area. Perisic actually is so good at crossing. He always looks for that cross a lot more. And obviously, Son is not one for getting on the end of crosses too much. So maybe there is a bit of an element to it, but I don't see Son's struggles in front of goal and things like that being down to Perisic at all. I think it's just an adjustment period.
You can clearly see with Son, he's lacking confidence. Every time something doesn't go off for him, he's really beating himself up on the pitch and stuff about. Like I said, he's getting the chances. He's getting in good positions. He's just not finishing well. And the ball and the control is a bit off as well and stuff like that. I don't think those kind of things have anything to do with the positioning of Perisic, positioning of Sonny, taking up space and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe not necessarily taking up space, but because there's now a more of an emphasis down our left-hand side now with Perisic there, people argue maybe it means because the opposition defences are now concentrating more on that side, and it clogs up that area a bit too much. Because now they're thinking, we have to go an extra man on Perisic. It means whenever Son's in those kind of areas on the left-hand side, there's like 3 or 4 men always around him a lot of the time. Whereas last season he was finding a lot more space. And is that to do with the presence of Perisic? I don't know. Or is it just to do with the threat of Son and people getting more wise to it? It's difficult to know, but I definitely think that defences are having to do a bit more work on that side due to Perisic, and whether that's making less space, I don't know.
But at the end of the day, last season, how many times did we see games where Son didn't really have too much of an impact, but will pop up with a goal or two?
Yeah,
we saw that countless amount of times, right? This season, we're seeing him have similar performances in some stages, but not pop up with those goals. But he's still getting those opportunities to pop up with the goals. So, I mean, I don't see it being an issue with Perisic. I really don't believe it whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to like looking at Son's XG and stuff, the big thing about Son is he's such a good finisher. He always outperforms his XG. So it's not always a hit for him about getting those high quality chances, because usually he just needs half a sight and he can put it in the corner. But right now, it's just not happening for him. And maybe it's just a case of he needs to get that elite level finishing back in his locker, yeah, which we know he has. Just right now, his finishing, his finishing's poor, but because he doesn't usually get easy chances anyway, he's usually outperforming his XG. So, now when he's not getting the chances, when he's not finishing to that level, he looks a bit on the periphery. Whereas before he'll put one in from 25 yards. But even without that, he's still on the periphery as well. But he just gets difficult chances. So it's interesting.
I think the fact of the matter is, if Son would have 2 or 3 goals behind his belt right now, no one would be saying too much about Son, to be honest, because he would be scoring the goals. And I think he'll get back to that. I really have no thought in my mind that he won't get back into that.
It's just annoying every game we're talking about, isn't it? But look, the fact of the matter is, the longer it goes, he doesn't score, the longer people are going to talk about it. It's just natural because he's so good. It's just that's always going to be the case. Do we drop him or do we not? I guess it was maybe you could get away with it while we're winning. No one's really going to complain. But now we lost the game. Now there is a lot more clamours. All right, we have to drop him now. Now it's a bit more like people, I think, are more getting a bit, I don't know, angry about it.
And this reaction to the loss is a bit crazy. I mean, everyone's been like, oh,
Rip
doom and gloom, rip it up, Conte out, this, that. I mean, just guys, calm down. It's like 1 loss throughout a season so far. I know we have been playing well so far this season, but we've been getting through games and getting points. So, look, I think
I saw someone on TikTok said that Conte's lost the dressing room already. They said it's clear that they've stopped playing for Conte. Look at our performances. It's clear that they've stopped playing for him. It's like, what? Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
God, the actual, it's actually mental, how crazy people are going right now after just 1 loss. And it's 1 loss in the Champions League group phase, you know what I mean? Like, who doesn't lose in the group phase? Everyone loses at least once at some point, you know what I mean?
It's going to be very rare to go 6 out of 6. The champion, look, they're the Champions League for a reason. I know Sporting are obviously in a Portuguese league, which isn't the best league, but they're still one of the best team in their league. They're going to be a good team. They're not going to be a bad team, you know what I mean? It's going to be difficult to play against them. And the Champions League is made off of best teams around Europe. It's not the easiest thing. So, it's always going to be a case where there's a chance we lose his game, we can lose a game or 2, and that's what happened. But there's no need to panic, in my opinion. I know performances could be better, but first of all, I don't think there has been as bad as people suggesting. I think maybe some of them have, but not all of them. I don't think in general we've been that bad this season. I still think we're pretty steady and we're a pretty stable team. It's not like we're leaking chances and all this kind of stuff, and we're all at sea or anything like that. Yeah, we could be a bit more creative and we can be a bit better on the ball, and hopefully that will come. But I don't think it's been a case where we start the season really poorly and we're just all over the place and everything's a mess. That's just not been the case. The games that we have won, you could argue maybe we've been a bit lucky to win, but it's not a case of we deserve to lose those games.
Would you start
maybe Chelsea?
Yeah, but would you start to worry if we don't have a commanding and convincing performance this weekend against this Leicester side with what they've been showing so far this season? Let's say we just about get past the game 1-0 or 2-1, and it's a bit of a similar performance where we're not creating too much but just about get the job done.
I wouldn't be happy about it. I mean, look, it depends on the context of the game. But it depends. If we're lucky to win, then I would be worried about that, yeah. But if we deserve to win, we get the win. I think that's something to be happy about. I think people take it for granted that, people see Man City and Liverpool think it's just so easy to go out there and just dominate every game and win. These are super teams who to the level that we've never seen in the league before. And I think it maybe warps people's perceptions of how easy it is to just go out there and win each game. This is the Premier League. A lot of games are going to be battles, and especially when you play Wolves and you play these good teams, just because you think you're better than them doesn't mean it's just going to be plain sailing every game. And I think right now we're going through a period where every game is a battle. Hopefully we get to a stage where it was like last season where we were breezing through teams. But right now it's early in the season. We're still feeling our way through it, and every game is a battle, and you have to battle to win. I think we are battling, and I think we are getting through it.
People look at that last season at White Hart Lane and being that's what we should be getting back to, breezing past teams, knowing if we go behind we're going to get back into this game, always believing in every single game that we're going to win the game.
But we had games under Pochettino where things were a battle. I remember,
especially away in Europe as well.
Yeah, definitely away in Europe. I remember one game, even last season at White Hart Lane, we played Middlesbrough, who got relegated that season. They were a terrible team. We were obviously we were unbelievable at home, and yet we really struggled. We barely created a chance. We won through a late Harry Kane penalty. We won 1-0, and that was our best team in the Premier League era against a Middlesbrough team got relegated. So and that you know what I mean. So that those kind of games happen. I remember early in that season we scraped past Sunderland 1-0, who also got relegated that season. You know what I mean? So it's not as easy. It's not as simple as saying every game, if you're not blowing teams away, we're playing awful and it's terrible and all this kind of stuff. I think people just need to appreciate where we are. Obviously, you're allowed to criticize and want better, but to people say, crisis and panic and all these kind of things, like,
is it the first team ever to be in a crisis where they go unbeaten and start the season?
Rubbish. Yeah, like no. Anyone who says it's crisis or anything like that.
And let's be honest, you're talking about Man City and Liverpool. We're doing better than Liverpool at the moment. We're doing better than Chelsea at the moment. We're doing better than Man United at the moment. We're on par with Man City in terms of points, and everyone knows how good Haaland and they're blowing teams away at the moment. So I think that there's definitely big reasons to be positive about our start of the season.
And I think the funny thing is, if we were right now before Pep's Man City team and things like that, if this start of the season happened like 6 or 7 years ago, people would be saying how amazing it is and like what amazing managed game management, unbeaten start to the season. Like people were saying it's incredible, but because Pep has kind of done it in a way where every game they just play amazing football and like this super like Harlem Globetrotters kind of style, like every kind of game. I think it warps everyone to think that's like, if you're not doing it that way every game, then you're not good. I think. And I think that's maybe the case at the moment.
And let's be honest, Man City just drew with Aston Villa, right? If we were to draw with Aston Villa last weekend or this weekend, this fan base would absolutely implode.
Yeah, we drew with West Ham and everyone was going crazy, you know what I mean? In terms of, as well, looking at the team, Conte said in his press conference that Emerson is getting a little bit tired at the moment, which he hasn't said previously. That does suggest that he might be coming out of the team this weekend. He didn't seem confident about Doherty. He didn't even mention Spence at all, which we'll maybe get into in a minute. But could the solution this weekend be Sessegnon on the left and Perisic on the right? Because he did mention in his in the press conference, Sessegnon's one player who's playing really well and deserves to play, and he said Perisic as well can be an option on the left or the right hand side. So is that something maybe we'll see this weekend, do you think?
I actually think it is what we're going to see this weekend, to be honest. And he's also mentioned a bit about Perisic, but just as we signed him as well, saying he can play on the right, can play on the left, either side of the left wing back or even the front line as well. So I actually think that's what we're going to see this weekend: Perisic on the right and Sessegnon on the left. And if it is if that is what he picks, I'm going to be really excited to see how they play, because against the Leicester side, whose defence have been absolutely shocking this season, to put Sessegnon on the left, who I think has been really good so far this season, showed his attacking qualities, and Perisic speaks for itself, the numbers he's produced so far, his first few games in the Premier League. I'm really excited to see, because when you're looking at Emerson, everyone knows Emerson's flaws. He's been all right defensively, apart from that goal we conceded in the last minute against Lisbon. But going forward, he's been absolutely shocking. The move breaks down every time he has it on that right-hand side, and I'll be so excited to see us having two good attacking wing-backs on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we're like with those two. When it comes to, and I think that should definitely be there's no reason for me why Perisic can't play that role. He's so two-footed. I don't see why.
The thing is, if we do go with this, Emerson might find it hard to get back into the team after, because he might see something really different to what we've seen.
If we're dropping Emerson to second choice, what does that mean for Doherty and Spence?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know, but well, Doherty has had clear injury problems. That's why he hasn't played him as of yet. And he did say in his press conference that he will start to be used in the rotation after the international break. And that goes along with Bissouma, and there was another player in there, which I can't remember who it was as well. But those two players as well will definitely Skip, exactly. So those players will definitely be coming in after the international break in terms of rotation. So I don't think it's a term of that maybe Doherty was second or third choice or whatever. I just think he just wasn't fit enough yet for him to be trusted. Yeah,
but in terms of Spence, what must he be feeling right now? Because he's come to the club. I know what Conte said, it was a club signing and whatever. I didn't think I like whatever. I didn't think it was the best thing, but I also thought Spence would probably enjoy the fact that the club believe in him and think that he's going to be. And obviously, you said, look, this is a good player and he's going to be a club signing, and hopefully he'll help us. But obviously, he hasn't. He only played 10 minutes against Forest. When he's talking about his wing back options, he doesn't even mention Spence at all. Is that? Should he be worried about that? Is it a case of just him being patient, or is it something? Or is it a case of Conte being really stubborn and like not even giving him a chance? Should he be getting a chance?
I think he definitely should be getting a chance. When you're seeing Emerson and the attacking qualities that he's producing, when you're seeing Doherty, who's not being fit enough to play just yet, and you're talking about Emerson being really tired. Yes, Perisic can play over the right-hand side, and it's probably the move I want to see happen this weekend. But having said that, I would be very happy to see Spence at right wing back this weekend against this Leicester side. I think he could definitely do a job. And I think Conte is being a bit too stubborn in terms of the Jed Spence situation. I think that he showed last season, albeit in the Championship, what he can produce. He showed it against Premier League sides in the Cups last season, what he can produce. And I actually think if Conte was to put his trust in him a bit more than he has done so far, it will do really wonders for the team, because I think he's got the qualities that we're lacking at the moment.
Yeah,
I really believe that.
Especially with... And I actually think now, with Doherty having these injury struggles, surely now would have been the perfect opportunity. Just bed him in a bit, you know, give him some minute, give him 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, with Emerson getting tired and things like that. But he just hasn't done it at all. And I just wonder why I just wonder why he has done. Is he really that far behind that you can't even like try and bed him in a bit in the earlier game? And now with Doherty being out, it would have been the perfect opportunity to do that. So I am a bit. It's just a bit of a weird one why Conte seems like completely intent not to give him anything. It's
frustrating.
Even left him out of the squad part of the first few games, and he put Doherty on the bench, who he says is struggling with injury. So. Why do that? Is he sending a message? Is Spence just being that bad in training that he can't even give him? He doesn't even think he deserves to be on the bench or anything like that. It's a bit concerning that. I just hope it's one of those things where, like, in 4 months' time, we're not even talking about it anymore. But
I hope so, because I was so excited when we signed him. You know, watching his highlights reels, saw him play in those games against Leicester and against Arsenal, and even there was a game against Liverpool, I think, a couple of years back as well. He played, and I've always been impressed every time I've seen him play. So I'd love to see him to get some action. But I personally believe Conte's being a bit too stubborn. I don't know. Do you think the same?
Yeah, I feel like he is. I feel like he is being. Look, I'm not saying he has to put Spence in the starting lineup or anything if he doesn't think he deserves it or whatever, but I do think in this early part of the season, while Doherty was out, it would have been a really good opportunity to just give him some minutes and let him feel his way into it. Right now, I feel like he's got zero trust. He's not even giving him any minutes whatsoever apart from the Forest game. That must be something, a bit of a frustration for Spence, who's probably desperate to prove himself, and he's not even getting a chance to do it. Like, I understand if he comes on, he's playing and he's just being awful, and then I can say, okay, look, he's not doing it. No point even trying. And maybe that's what Conte thinks is going to happen, because if he's not giving him minutes. But I feel a bit sorry for him, and I think he probably thought when he came, you know, I've got a great chance of winning that spot at the right wing back, and he maybe still does, but if he's not even getting the opportunity to do it, and Conte's saying he's happy with Emerson, and Emerson is playing really well, and you know, he nearly scored against Sporting, and he's doing well. Like, it was like Spencer was like, well, I could do so much better than that. He must be thinking, and I've probably shown I could do better than that.
It's frustrating because you see the clear flaws in our team, which is the same as last season, you know, right wing back, centre back. And we've got a player literally there, which we signed in the summer, and we're just not utilising him at all in the position that we're desperately in need of. So I think we got to give him a go. We just have to give him a go at some point soon. And
there's one other thing that he mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting, about Bissouma.
Yeah.
He's mentioned again, this must be about the second or third time he's mentioned that he's not tactically ready right now for the team.
On the defensive side,
which is about to get into that point, which is really strange when you think of Bissouma. What do you think his main strengths are? His ability to get around the pitch, his tops the tackles and interceptions metrics every single season. He was one of the best defensive midfielders last season for Brighton. If anything, you would have thought what he could have done more is on the ball and, you know, more charging forward and doing more things to help the team in attack. But he says that defensively is what he's lacking, and he needs to be more concentrated and be more aware defensively than he was. And to be fair, you know, that goal when he did start, that goal against West Ham was definitely a big part. He was a big part to blame for it, because he just let his man run off him on his behind him, and he didn't track him. But it's just odd to think that the thing that's stopping Bissouma coming into the team is his defensive work. When you thought that would get him into the team, which is a very strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm lost with that one, to be honest. I mean, the only thing I can think of from Conte's eyes is that he was playing in a different system for Brighton, and he's not up to scratch on the actual system that Conte wants to play. Because you know how much of attention to detail Conte looks in every single facet of his tactical system, and maybe he just has only played in the Brighton system under Graham Potter for so long now, and he's just not tactically ready to come into that Conte system. But like, how are you going to be tactically ready and if you don't get chances as well? I mean, like, is it just on the training ground is he going to work on? Because you need to be working on the pitch in games as well, surely.
Yeah, it's a peculiar one. It's a peculiar one. Obviously he needs time on the pitch. He hasn't been afforded it. I know Skip's been injured and he just recently come back, and he's just trusted Højbjerg and Bentancur because maybe he just thought, look, we need the points, and they're doing the job at the moment. I really believe once Bissouma's fully acclimatised to his team, he could really take our midfield up a notch. That's what I'm hoping for. I really believe he's got quality to do that. But at the moment, he's just not up to speed yet, and hopefully that can happen sooner rather than later, because the guy's got quality, and Conte said like he's got amazing quality and I'm delighted with this signing, but he's just not tactically ready yet. But you would have thought he would have been one of the first ones up to speed, because I know Brian played with a 5 in the middle usually, 3 in the middle, midfield, but he has played with a 3 at the back system before under Potter, so you would have thought. And I think sometimes they played 3-4-3. So you'd have thought like he would have had some experience.
Potter 3-4-3 is probably very different to a Conte 3-4-3 in terms of what he's calling each player to do. And also Bissouma's pre-season as well was short, wasn't it? Because he was one that had COVID.
Yeah, he missed. He went to Korea, but he didn't get a game, I don't think, did he? And then he played Rangers.
And that was it.
And he played Roma.
I don't think he might have come on, but he didn't play too much.
So maybe that also stunted it. But I also think maybe we haven't seen, like, people are complaining, but we haven't seen the full extent of what this team could do. Maybe once we have Longley in there, once we have Bissouma in there, maybe this team can really take it up a notch. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
And how do you think actually Leicester approach this game? Because if they sit back against us, I mean, teams can really stifle us if they sit back against us. But can Leicester, do they have the players to do that? Do they have maybe not the experience, but the right head to do that with the space that the club is in at the moment? And if they come at us, it's just going to be the same story as what they have been seeing over the last few weeks with Leicester, where they just concede so many goals. I mean, so how do you expect them to approach this?
I don't know. It's a double-edged sword for them, I think. I'm not really sure what the right approach is. I think their best approach is to try and sit back and try and get us on the counter with Vardy. But with us having 3 centre-backs, I think that's going to be extremely difficult for them to achieve. So I can only really see struggle. I think if they come at us, if they're not absolutely perfect on the ball, we're just going to play around them, I think, and we'll find it easy to get chances. So I do think that their best course of action is to try and clog up the defensive areas, make it difficult for us, make us come out a bit, and then with the quality of Maddison and Tielemans, try and hit us over the top. We'll maybe even play 2 up top with Daka and Vardy and try and do that. That's maybe I'll do maybe a 3-5-2, clog up the midfield and try and hit us over the top with 2 pacey strikers. But that would be the best way, but I don't think they'll do that. I think I can just see a lot of struggle for Leicester. But then again, look, with a team like Leicester, they've been implementing a different system and a different plan, and they can come out and surprise everyone. I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen it in the Premier League so many times. Teams on a losing run, and then they do a big tactical tweak, and they can start changing their fortunes around. So you can never get too comfortable with the team's form just because they're on a bad run of form. Doesn't mean they're going to be bad for your game, but
especially when Dr. Tottenham's around.
Yeah, and especially they've lost 5 in a row. They definitely don't want to make it 6, do they? So it will probably, from that point of view, maybe not an easy game, but it's one of those where if we can take control of it, then I think if they do fall behind Leicester, they might start to lose confidence very quickly. Yeah. And I think that will gain their heads.
I got a feeling the way the game's going, I actually think Leicester will come out the block strong this weekend. But I think that if we do get the first goal, that's when their heads are going to drop, and then they'll lose a bit of confidence in themselves, and then that's when we can really, as Conte likes to say, smell the blood and really kill off the opponent. But I do think they'll probably come out the blocks quite well this weekend, but it's all about that first goal, and I think once we do get one, even if they take the lead and we get one, their confidence is going to drop massively.
I think so as well.
All right, so what's the score prediction?
I said 3-0.
3-0.
I said 3-0, clean sheet. I think that I reckon I wouldn't even be surprised if like all 3 goals come in the second half or something like that. It might be a bit of a tense game for them, like at the start. But and we're also traditionally slow starters. But once we gain control, and if we can get a goal early, then I think we will be able to expose them. That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully, we don't give them any encouragement because they don't need it at the moment. But I'm going to go with, that's just my prediction. I'm going to say that we're going to take control of the game, and I think we're just in a better place right now. So I'm going to go 3-0.
All right, I'm going to go. I actually said 3-1 in my prediction, but I actually think it could be a bit more this weekend. I think that if we play to the levels that we know we can, and if judging on what Leicester have been like so far this season and the back end of last season, I think that we can really put a big score this weekend. So I'm just going to add a goal there. I'm going to put it to 4-1 Spurs. But like I said, I think once we get one goal, I really think the floodgates can open tomorrow. But let's go and have a look at Betmate now, the brilliant fantasy gaming app where there's £1,000 guaranteed this weekend. I think the buy-in is, £6 this weekend. So if you want £5 free, if you're a new user, use our code WATTV5 for a free £5. The link is in the description below if you want to join the game, if you want to download the app. Let's start off with my team. Got a brand new picture there with my coffee.
Look at that.
I've got Hugo Lloris in goal. In defence, I've got Emerson and Sessegnon, but I might change that Emerson to Perisic because you can change it up to 5 minutes before kickoff. So whoever the wing backs are for Spurs, I'll put them in the defence. In the midfield, I've got Maddison and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. It's important to note in this game that you get points for every tackle and every interception. So it's a bit different to the standard FPL where defensive actions don't get points. But in this game, they do get points. So it's actually really important to think about that. And then up front, I've gone for Harry Kane as captain and Richarlison as vice-captain. But if Richarlison doesn't play, then I'm probably going to put in either Sonny or Kulusevski. So that's my team.
All right, and my team here.
Oh, you're sipping the coffee.
I've got Lloris to go because I think we're getting a clean sheet. Perisic and Sessegnon for my backlines. I reckon Perisic is going to play on the right. That's what I'm banking on. Midfield, I've got defensive duo in Ndidi and Højbjerg. I think Ndidi can make lots of tackles, interceptions, although I don't think they'll stop us from scoring. But I do see him.
The thing is, Ndidi has been playing centre back the last few weeks.
Might even be more tackles and interceptions then potentially. Then up front, Kane and Son. I'm backing them both to play, and they both have fantastic records against Leicester. So if they both start, I back them to both be amongst getting goal involvements. So I've got them both, and I've got Kane captain and Højbjerg vice captain, who's playing well recently. So that is the team I've gone for.
All right, so come and take us on this weekend. £6 to enter. £1,000 is the minimum pot for this weekend. So very much looking forward to taking you all on this weekend. But that is our Betmate. That is our match preview.